Chapter 111, The Emergence of the Super Legion. Stop. Stop fighting. Willow, Miranda, and Zoe grieved hopelessly when they saw Joey, who was covered in blood, in danger. However, the other party had already been blinded by rage. How could it possibly be for them to quit and stop at this point? Nadia, Samuel, Derek, and the others of the Yorks were all sporting vile smirks as they watched the show in front of them. They felt even more excited seeing how miserable the outcome was for Joey. Along with a loud sound, the iron rod struck Joey's head from behind. She felt lightheaded and then collapsed to the ground. At this moment, Joey had lost all her strength to fight and lay flat on the ground. "Bring her here," Garrett shouted angrily. To arrest Joey, many of his comrades were sacrificed. How could he not be furious? Two members of the Flying Dragons dragged Joey to the front of Garrett and Ezekiel. A trail of blood emerged as Joey, who was covered in blood, was dragged over. Now that Joey had fallen, many people gathered closer. "Joey Sanders, now you know the consequence of causing trouble for me." Ezekiel swept a glance at Joey, who was lying on the ground and bleeding. "Ezekiel Parker, God is watching. He'll know how much evil you've done, and you'll have to answer for all of it one day." Joey replied with all her strength. "Inspector Ezekiel, you're interested in this woman, aren't ya? Why don't you take this chance?" Garrett reminded beside him. Ezekiel had lost all his interest in Joey, who was currently covered in blood on the ground. "I'll leave her to whoever wants to have some fun with her." Ezekiel waved his hand. It was better to get his subordinates to do it. But when everyone saw that Joey had turned into a bloody mess, they all felt a chill down their spines. Out of 1,000 people, only a few perverts rushed out. "Let me do it. Me. I'm still up for it, even though she looks kinda scary." About 7 to 8 people swarmed up, all wishing to rape Joey. "Take it easy. Let's draw lots to decide." Ezekiel waved his hand and said. Everyone nodded without any opinions. Caspian, Willow, and the others were immediately enraged at these beasts who had no intention of sparing Joey, who was already injured badly. How could humans be so depraved? Caspian tried to free himself so that he could save Joey, who was in danger. What happened to Julian and Sylvia? Why have they not arrived yet? Caspian thought. Just then, there was a rumbling sound from the surroundings, and it was getting closer. Everyone was startled upon hearing the sudden commotion. While they were not sure what was going on, Caspian smiled. He knew this sound too well. It signified the Super Legion's arrival. As the rumbling sound approached, it echoed through the cliff of death. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound. After they could see the situation from far clearly, they were all trembling out of fear. This was because countless armored, military, and tracked vehicles were charging toward them. When they saw what was happening, Ezekiel, Garrett, Nadia, the York family, and the rest of the Flying Dragons who were at the scene were all stunned to the core. As Willow, Miranda, and Zoe watched countless tracked and military vehicles come their way, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. They even thought they had started getting delusions from the immense dread they felt. This scene was too surreal, even 10 times more shocking than Caspian's wedding last time. The sight of these tracked vehicles and military vehicles reminded one of wild beasts that had lost control. They looked more majestic than ever. The people present were filled with confusion, wondering why there were so many tracked and military vehicles rushing to the cliff of death. Joey, who was dying, also felt extremely shocked by this majestic scene. She had never witnessed such a grand scene before. Caspian had been enduring all this while. When he finally saw the emergence of the Super Legion, he let out a sigh of relief. None of these beasts would be able to escape from here. What's going on? Why is the military unit here? Is it because they're having a drill here? Ezekiel looked at this magnificent scene, thinking the Super Legion had a drill practice here. Calm down, everyone. Relax. This is only a drill by the Super Legion. Garrett was trying hard to hide his nervousness when he spoke. That's right. The military vehicles are just passing by. Don't be nervous, everyone. It's a good chance to see more of what the world has to offer. Hurriedly, Nadia also consoled the York family. They all thought that the Super Legion was passing by for their drill. If not, they wouldn't be able to explain the situation. Nobody would expect this Super Legion to be here for Caspian. In just a short moment, the Super Legion that had gone through countless fights had come near the cliff of death. The flying dragons and the Yorks were completely panicking when they realized these tracked and military vehicles were rushing toward the cliff of death. Something isn't right. I don't think this is a drill. They're charging toward us. Garrett was astonished. Is the drill happening right here? Ezekiel was a bit puzzled as well. What they were doing now was illegal. If they got discovered by someone from the Super Legion, would they all be arrested? Could the Super Legion be here for Caspian? Victor asked worriedly. That's impossible. I did an in-depth background check on Caspian. He was merely a soldier. At most, a guard soldier. How could so many people be here just to save him? Ezekiel justified. The situation seems to be off. Nadia's heart was beating fast as fear overtook her. At this moment, all the tracked and military vehicles had barged over to the cliff of death and arranged themselves in a long snake formation. Those well-trained soldiers, who were holding guns, rushed out and stood beside their vehicles. They raised the rifles in their hands and aimed at the people on the cliff of death. There were also 2 to 3 soldiers, who carried machine guns, lying on the ground. Meanwhile, some of them knelt and set up the cannons. They were ready to fire any time. However, these soldiers did not shoot easily. Looking at countless gun barrels pointing straight at them, everyone on the cliff of death was terrified to their core. Oh no, it's not a drill practice. It's for real. After Ezekiel suddenly realized what was going, he turned around and tried to escape. In an instant, the crowd started to run away. Even though they had firearms as well, those were not worth mentioning in front of the Super Legion. The Yorks fled away, each for themselves. They couldn't even bother to care about Nadia. Why is everyone running away? Someone come and help me. Nadia was in a complete panic. She hobbled with a cane as she shouted. Every member of the York family fled as fast as they could. No one paid any attention to her. While watching as these people made a run for it, Caspian was filled with spirit. Today, no one could escape from here. Willow, Miranda, and Zoe were feeling terrified as well. However, it was impossible for them to escape, even if they wanted to, as they were tied up. They were all wondering why the Super Legion suddenly appeared. Just then, Julian and Sylvia both rushed out and ran toward Caspian. They were followed by some soldiers. Willow, Miranda, and Zoe were all shocked by the current situation. Could it be that the Super Legion showed up just to rescue Caspian? Chapter 112, A Devastating Battle. Lord Caspian, please punish us for our late arrival, Julian and Sylvia said nervously. Due to the noise of the tracked and military vehicles, Willow and the others couldn't hear the conversation between Julian and Sylvia with Caspian. Break these chains and handcuffs for me first, said Caspian with anger. It was a fact that Sylvia and Julian were a little slow this time. If it wasn't for Joey buying some time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. All right, my lord. Julian and Sylvia were both trembling in fear upon seeing Caspian's fury. After Sylvia broke off the chains and handcuffs, she stood in front of Caspian with both hands clasped in front. Lord Caspian, the Legion is ready. Please give your order. These people on the cliff of death are heinous. I want the army to kill them all. Not only did they want to rape the ladies, but they also had no intention of sparing Joey, who was severely injured. They were truly acting like beasts. Yes, my lord. Julian and Sylvia answered unanimously. Keep the lives of Ezekiel Parker, Garrett Johnson, Nadia York, the head of the Flying Dragons, as well as their protectors and masters. Tomorrow, I'll bring them to my foster mother's grave for them to atone for their sins. If they resist, kill them on the spot, Caspian added. Yes, my lord. Julian and Sylvia nodded. Go. Look for the military doctor to treat Joey's injury before we start taking action. If it wasn't for Joey boldly stepping forward to fight, we would have been in danger. So, make sure to save her, Caspian instructed. Yes, my lord. Julian and Sylvia were impressed by Joey, and they admired her even more now. They both knew their action was delayed this time because of how much Caspian was bleeding. Don't call me lord. I don't want to expose my identity, said Caspian. We understand, responded Julian and Sylvia with full respect. Let's go. Caspian then walked to Willow and the others. Sylvia brought a team of lights to follow and protect Caspian. Caspian first untied the ropes on Willow and the rest, then unlocked the handcuffs and shackles. At this moment, Willow, Miranda, and Zoe were still in great shock. They couldn't believe what was happening in front of them. Sorry for being late and making you suffer, Willow, said Sylvia. You brought all the soldiers? Willow curiously asked. That's right, Sylvia nodded as she answered. 3 of you. Why are you still standing there? Follow me now, Caspian shouted. After the 3 of them left, the Legion could launch their all-out attack. Soon after, Willow, Miranda, and Zoe followed Caspian to a tracked vehicle. Sylvia and the elite team followed Caspian closely in case any trouble were to arise. Get in this car. Stay still inside, and don't walk around, Caspian instructed the 3 of them. This time, the Legion came fully prepared. The absence of one tracked vehicle had no impact on the battle. Okay. Willow nodded. The 3 of them quickly got into the tracked vehicle. At the same time, the military doctor also carried Joey to the ambulance to treat her. Get rid of these jerks. Julian gave an order after making sure Willow and the others were safe. Following Julian's order, the guns and cannons roared simultaneously. Those who were fleeing thought they were safe when they did not detect any movement. The next second, the sound of commotion rose. Everyone was so scared that they escaped without looking back. The gunfire roared among the crowd. Cries of agony rang out, and corpses were everywhere. Under such a fierce attack, many people were blasted apart and disfigured. Arrest their leader. After the gunfire ended, Julian gave another order. Countless tracked vehicles began the pursuit. The soldiers walked while firing in a sweeping motion. Following the screams that echoed throughout the cliff of death, many escapers collapsed to the ground. The tracked and military vehicles were invincible. Wherever they went, no one could survive. The wheels absolutely crushed through the corpses. The flying dragons and the York family had never seen such a terrifying scene. At this moment, it was as if they were in hell and had nowhere to escape. Meanwhile, Caspian finally had a moment to spare. He came to the ambulance, wanting to check on Joey's injuries. You must survive, Miss Sanders, Caspian remarked. Caspian, before this, you took a bullet for me. This time, I saved your wife. Shall we call it even? Joey responded in a weak voice. Don't talk about this now. You should focus on getting treated first, said Caspian. What's the deal with the Legion? Joey asked with some doubts. They're all the comrades I've fought with before. They rushed over to support me once they received the news, Caspian explained. I see. I want to kill that jerk, Ezekiel Parker, with my own hands. Joey stated fiercely. You did great. Don't worry, Ezekiel won't be able to run away as my comrades will definitely arrest him. You should focus on healing your wounds now, Caspian replied. All right. Joey nodded. After you recover, I want you to take charge of the Inspector General's office, said Caspian. What? Are you messing with me? How could I become the head of the Inspector General's office? Joey questioned back. Why not? You're brave and skilled in battle with a strong sense of justice. You're definitely qualified for this position, Caspian assured her. Even if I do want to go for that position, it's not something you can decide. Joey had never thought she could take over such a high position. Meanwhile, Julian had already commanded the Legion to begin eliminating the enemies. The cries of agony never stopped. Up to thousands of people had lost their lives to gunshots. Lord Caspian, are you done? She's severely injured. We'll have to take off her clothes and start the treatment now, a female doctor said. All right. Please do your best to treat her. Caspian nodded. He was well aware that it was crucial to start treating Joey now, so he stopped chatting with her. Caspian left afterward. Even though Joey heard the doctor address him as Lord, she didn't know the meaning behind it and thought it was just a nickname. Thus, she didn't take it to heart. Caspian stood beside the tracked vehicle that Willow was in and watched the battle from there. He couldn't be bothered to go down to the battle personally and get rid of these unimportant jerks. He just needed to watch from the side. At this moment, Sylvia was leading the elite team by charging at the forefront. She was ready to catch those individuals mentioned by Caspian. Nadia was the first one to get arrested due to her old age and difficulties in moving. After that, Sylvia arrested the rest of the Yorks. Ezekiel and Garrett were frightened when they saw the Legion launching a relentless attack with casualties mounting. They knew their current situation: either get caught or get killed. Everyone, stop now. Since we're at a dead end, we might as well give it a try. Ezekiel, after all, was the head of the Inspector General's office. He had been through a fair share of experiences. Hence, he didn't intend to surrender without a fight. Chapter 113, Arrest the Head. Exactly. Since we'll be dead anyway, we might as well give it a try. Garrett didn't want to get caught. Rather than waiting to be caught, he preferred to fight for a way out. Today, around 4,000 to 5,000 members of the Flying Dragons were present with armed guns. Even though more than 1,000 of them were killed, they still held some power to fight. If they continued to run away, they were bound to be doomed. It was better to turn around and fight for a way out. After listening to Ezekiel and Garrett, the members turned and started shooting. There were many things on the cliff of death that they could use to take cover. Ezekiel, Garrett, and the others hid before starting to counter-attack. But they didn't have any chance of winning given the enemy they were facing was soldiers who had experienced many battles. Moreover, they were equipped with tracked and military vehicles. Their combat power was terrifying. The motley crew of the Flying Dragons had no chance of winning against them. Willow, Miranda, and Zoe hid in the tracked vehicle and observed everything in their surroundings. They had never seen such a big scene. It was a fascinating experience to actually witness something like this. When they saw those inhumane beasts being bombarded, they felt satisfied. The leader of the Flying Dragons, Quentin, and the rest were all shot and collapsed to the ground. As the tracked vehicles moved closer to them, Quentin and Jaden were stunned to the core. Because of their leg injuries, they had some difficulties in running away. "No, please," both of them exclaimed with fright. However, the tracked vehicles showed no intention of stopping and continued to move forward. Extremely miserable screams rang out from both of them. The tracked vehicles ruthlessly rolled over them. The two figures from the Flying Dragons were instantly crushed into pulp with blood, and Ezekiel, Garrett, Vin and the others were trembling in fear when they saw this scene. At this moment, many of them regret coming here today. Otherwise, this would never have happened. Compared to those who had met a tragic end, they were considered very lucky. In their opinion, anything was possible as long as they were still alive. After all, the York family still had Zachary as their backer. As long as Zachary showed up, the Yorks would be safe. The artillery fire didn't stop, and those who tried to resist were massacred. Ezekiel and Garrett rushed to the top of the cliff out of fear, when they realized half of the few thousand people were dead under the bombardment. When the inspectors brought here by Ezekiel saw that even he was fleeing, they naturally lost the desire to continue the fight. It was almost the same situation for the Flying Dragons. They fled out of fear when they saw that the supreme leader had run away. Joey heard the sound of the gunfire from inside the ambulance. She wanted to see what was happening outside. After the bloodstains on her body were cleaned and her wounds were treated, she couldn't wait any longer. She said, "That's enough for now. I want to see what's happening outside." The female military doctor had no choice but to relent. She just wondered what was so enticing about battle scenes like this. Such things were very common in the army. They had even experienced a battle in which the scale was 10 times bigger than the current battle. "You still have an untreated wound on your head," said the female military doctor. "It's okay. I'm more worried about missing such a big scene," replied Joey. She didn't want to miss this exhilarating scene. After that, the doctor gave Joey a set of military uniform, as Joey's clothes were in tatters and soaked in blood. She could no longer wear them. After Joey changed, she got out of the ambulance. At this moment, Ezekiel, Garrett, Victor, and the rest kept fleeing toward the top of the cliff. They were followed by some defeated members. The sound of artillery continued, and Ezekiel heard screams coming from behind him. After being blown apart, fragments of corpses fell beside Ezekiel and Garrett. Both of them exclaimed while trembling. They immediately lay on the ground, not daring to make even a single move. The surroundings were full of blood and flesh, with many members of the flying dragons blown into pieces. Even their internal organs had come spilling out. The thick smell of blood filled the air. At this moment, the two of them were filled with regret. They had initially planned to torment Caspian tonight, but they ended up running into the Super Legion. Could it be that the Legion came here because of Caspian? Joey felt incredible satisfaction when she saw these inhumane bastards being disfigured after being massacred. Especially when she spotted Ezekiel and Garrett scurrying away in a panic. Her anger was worked off. The Super Legion was extremely powerful. The defeated members had long lost any will to fight, and started to run in all directions. Still, they were shot mercilessly in the midst of their escape. Caspian had already given his order to kill everyone except the main leaders. Looking at Caspian, who had suffered a lot, Sylvia was even more furious. Hence, she led the elite team personally and charged at the forefront. Ezekiel and Garrett continued to lie on the ground, not daring to flee anymore. As for Victor of the Flying Dragons, he lay on the ground after smearing some blood on his face, pretending to be dead. Willow, Miranda, and Zoe couldn't bear to continue watching such a brutal scene anymore. They were just ordinary people. They couldn't accept watching such a bloody and cruel scene. On the contrary, Joey didn't feel any discomfort. She believed that these heinous individuals deserved to die. The battle had almost come to an end. Listening to the gunfire, which was getting softer and softer, Ezekiel and Garrett understood that they were nearing their doom. On the cliff of death, the dead bodies piled up like mountains, and the blood flowed like rivers. The Super Legion took only about 10 minutes to kill thousands of people. The Yorks were all dumbfounded when they saw this situation. Until now, they still didn't understand why the Super Legion interrupted their plans all of a sudden. "Stop the attack. Arrest those who are still alive," Julian shouted. The Super Legion stopped their attack immediately. The soldiers began to comb through the entire area. Sylvia and her team arrested Ezekiel and Garrett first. Even Victor, who was playing dead, couldn't escape this outcome. The protector of the Flying Dragons, Skylar, was arrested as well. Out of the two masters and two protectors of the Flying Dragons, he was the only one who survived. Caspian arrested the members of the York family, the Flying Dragons, and Ezekiel in one fell swoop in this battle on the Cliff of Death. The three forces were the scum of South Lake City. Once that was done, Sylvia brought Nadia, Samuel, Derek, Ezekiel, Garrett, and the others to Caspian. Chapter 114, Uncover the mastermind behind the scenes. Nadia, Ezekiel, Garrett, and the others were all quivering, not even daring to look directly at Caspian in front of them. "Get on your knees, all of you," Sylvia shouted, and then kicked them all to the ground. Joey was extremely surprised, wondering why Sylvia and the others were so respectful toward Caspian. Could it be that Caspian was their general? "Miss, you can resume treatment now, right?" The female military doctor asked Joey, who was watching the scene in front of her with fascination. "Wait a minute. Let me watch for a little more," replied Joey. She completely forgot about her injuries. "We can't delay anymore. Your injuries haven't been fully treated, and some wounds are still bleeding," the female military doctor advised. Caspian had instructed them to ensure Joey's full recovery no matter what. After that, Joey was dragged by a few people into the ambulance. "You've been defeated. Is there anything you'd like to say?" Caspian asked indifferently to the few people kneeling in front of him. "Caspian, why did the army come here?" asked Ezekiel. "They rushed from South Aridlands," Caspian answered coldly. "South Aridlands? Why did they travel across mountains and rivers to kill people indiscriminately?" Ezekiel asked again. "Indiscriminately? Haven't your actions been cruel enough? You all are the ones who have been indiscriminately killing innocent people. No, they're just here to punish scum like you." Caspian sneered as he spoke. "I don't accept this. Even though I'm guilty, this legion has no right to arrest me. I request to contact the authorities of South Lake and North Lake City," shouted Ezekiel. "Take him away. Tomorrow, I'll use his death to pay tribute to my foster mother." Caspian waved his hand and said directly. The soldiers immediately brought Ezekiel. Garrett, and the rest away. Caspian, what are you trying to do? Do you want to kill all of us? Nadia's face was pale, and she was trembling out of fear. Except for the few members of the Yorks who were arrested, the rest of the York family were almost all dead under the gunfire. Would the Yorks be exterminated? I said before that the Yorks are responsible for my foster mother's death. A life for a life. Now, it's time for you all to repay with your lives, Caspian said. How dare you? My son is the person in charge of the Two Lakes area. If you dare to kill the Yorks, Zachary will do whatever he can to come after you. Nadia showed her last card. Oh yeah, let's wait and see then. It's best if your beloved son shows up right now. I'll have him executed alongside you, Caspian said. You're just boasting. What right do you have to arrest him? Nadia asked. Caspian couldn't be bothered to speak to her anymore. He waved his hand, instructing someone to take her away. Willow, Miranda, and Zoe had witnessed the brutal scene just now and hadn't come back to their senses. They saw Sylvia bringing everyone to kneel in front of Caspian. They were extremely surprised, but they had no idea what exactly was going on. In the tracked vehicle, the three of them couldn't hear anything. Julian notified John immediately to send a team to the Two Lakes governor's building and arrest Zachary. Caspian told Julian, tonight, the Legion was invincible, eliminating the enemies without much struggle. These motley crews were no match for the elite Legion, and crumbled in the face of their strength. None of the people brought by Ezekiel survived. Tonight, the Flying Dragons and the Yorks appeared here, but all of them were massacred at the end. Caspian had mentioned to Sylvia earlier that he planned to do something big in South Lake City. It was just that this plan was somewhat dangerous. The three biggest blights in South Lake City were all removed today. The support behind the three forces, Zachary, was also revealed. Caspian, you're injured. You'd better have someone treat you first, Sylvia said. All right. Send someone to clean up the battlefield now, Caspian ordered. These minor injuries were nothing to Caspian. He came to the tracked vehicle where Willow and the others were hiding and said, It's safe now. You can come out. Okay. Willow, Miranda, and Zoe get out of the vehicle. At the moment, corpses were everywhere. They didn't dare to look at the situation of the surroundings as it was too terrifying. Caspian, why did a military unit appear here to lift the siege? Willow asked curiously. This is the troop I went to battle with before. They happened to be stationed outside South Lake City. After knowing I was in danger, they rushed over, Caspian explained. I see. That's why you always seem so cool-headed. It was because you had a troop backing you. Willow came to a realization. No wonder Caspian seemed so confident before. My honey is indeed very smart, Caspian said with a chuckle. How do we settle those who have been arrested? Willow asked again. Let's not say much for now. The answer will be revealed tomorrow. I have injuries that I need to get treated now. Talk to you later, Caspian said and walked toward the ambulance. Willow, Miranda, and Zoe followed him as they wanted to check on Joey's injuries. John, who was in South Aridlands, immediately sent people to arrest Zachary once he received news from Julian. At the same time, Joey's injuries had all been treated. Fortunately, Joey's injuries were all external without any internal damage. After the military doctor stopped the bleeding and bandaged the wounds, there was nothing serious. It was just that she looked a little pale due to excessive blood loss. Chief Sanders, thank you so much for risking everything to rescue us. Willow expressed her gratitude sincerely. Don't mention it. It's all part of my duty, said Joey. Chief Sanders, you're truly righteous. You're the bravest inspector I've ever met. Zoe praised. You're flattering me, Joey said modestly. If you hadn't intervened in time, I can't imagine what would have happened, Miranda added. As an inspector, punishing evil is my obligation, Joey replied. How are your injuries? Willow was concerned. No big deal. They're all external wounds, and they've been treated, Joey said. That's good to hear. Willow patted her chest as she spoke with some lingering fear. The situation just now was terrifying. At the moment, Caspian was receiving medical treatment from the military doctor. He had gotten a simple bandaging. The sky is already dark. Let's head back. Caspian came to the front of everyone and said, All right, But we don't have a car. It's still a long way to South Lake City, Willow stated. Chief Sanders, you won't mind if we hitch a ride in your car, will you? Caspian asked. He thought going back to South Lake City in a tracked vehicle was a bit too obtrusive. Lord Caspian, are you leaving? Sylvia asked. Yes. Clean up the battlefield, then station yourselves near South Lake City. Tomorrow, bring everyone to attend the memorial service of my foster mother. Caspian answered. Chapter 115 Treason. Yes, my lord. Julian and Sylvia answered unanimously. Sylvia, you've gotten everything done for the memorial service, right? Caspian checked again. Caspian, you don't have to worry about the tasks under me. Everything is ready, Sylvia replied. That's good. Keep an eye on Ezekiel and the rest. Execute them at the memorial service tomorrow, Caspian said coldly. Don't worry, Lord Caspian. They can't escape, Julian assured. Remember what I've said. Don't call me Lord. The soldiers can address me as Caspian, Caspian said. Yes, Caspian. Julian nodded. Soon afterward, everyone got into Joey's car and was ready to leave. Caspian was in the driver's seat. The car sped away, leaving the cliff of death behind. After they left, the three ladies felt surreal when they reflected on everything that had happened just now. They had never encountered such a situation before, let alone witnessed such a magnificent scene. Corpses were scattered everywhere, and just thinking about it made them feel horrified. Despite Willow and Zoe having seen bloody scenes before, those were not worth mentioning compared to what they saw today. Chief Sanders, how's your condition? Caspian asked while driving. I'm fine, just feeling a little lightheaded because of the blood loss, Joey answered. Do you have time tomorrow to attend my foster mother's memorial service? Caspian asked. Joey had helped a lot for the past few nights, so Caspian decided to invite her to the memorial service. You're hosting a memorial service for your foster mother? Joey asked surprisingly. Yes, my foster mother sacrificed herself to save others. I wasn't in South Lake City at that time. I was at South Aridlands and didn't know about the news. Her departure was too tragic. So I want to hold a solemn memorial service for her, Caspian said. I see. Your foster mother was indeed admirable. I'll be there tomorrow, said Joey. At this moment, Willow said, Chief Sanders, since you're joining the memorial service tomorrow, how about staying overnight at our place? It's already late, and you're injured. Would that be inconvenient for you? Joey asked hesitantly. Of course not. There are still many empty rooms at our place, Willow assured. Right. You stay at our place, so then I don't have to send you back, Caspian added. Then I'll accept the invitation, Joey agreed since both Caspian and Willow warmly invited her. Ms. Barton, it's already midnight, and you've been through a shock. How about you come together to stay at my place? Willow suggested to Miranda, who was sitting next to her. Sure. Nodding, accepted the invitation without hesitance. The scene of bloodshed from tonight still replayed in her mind. She didn't dare to stay alone at home. After they arrived at Riverside Villa, Willow picked 2 rooms that had been cleaned up for Joey and Miranda to stay. Zoe slept in a room with Willow. Zachary kept waiting for the news at the Two Lakes Governor's building. He looked at the time and saw that it was almost midnight, so he made a call to Nadia. He wanted to check on the situation there. To his surprise, she couldn't be reached no matter what. Later, he tried calling Samuel, but still couldn't get through. Zachary was puzzled. He had no idea what had happened. He also attempted to call other members of the Yorks, but the results were the same. None of the calls went through. Zachary didn't feel good about it, and a bad premonition surged within him. After that, he called the Inspector General's office to get some news. Hello, responded the person who was on duty in the Inspector General's office. I'm Zachary, the regional chief of Two Lakes. Zachary stated his identity directly. See Chief Zachary. The inspector who answered the call was startled upon hearing that it was Zachary who called. Why can't Inspector Ezekiel's phone be reached? Zachary asked directly. Inspector Ezekiel and the others have turned off their phones. It has been like this the entire night, said the inspector. Is there any special operation going on in South Lake City? Zachary tried to ask. He had a feeling that things didn't go well. Yes, There is, and it's a very large-scale operation, the inspector answered. What operation is it? Frowning, Zachary asked. Tonight, a Grand Legion suddenly invaded South Lake City and surrounded the Inspector General's office, the inspector answered. Thinking of what had happened tonight, he was still afraid. Legion. Do you know why the Legion besieged the Inspector General's office? Zachary asked doubtfully. As the regional chief of Two Lakes, Zachary was very sensitive to this kind of news, especially tonight at this time. They were looking for Inspector Ezekiel and Caspian, the inspector answered. What? Did they find them? Zachary was extremely shocked. Things seemed to be beyond his control. Yes, they did. It seems they used satellite positioning to locate them. After that, the Legion immediately turned around and headed toward the Cliff of Death, the inspector explained. Zachary shook, causing his phone to fall to the ground from his hand. What's wrong, Chief Zachary? The inspector asked. Zachary's emotions were so complicated now that he picked up the phone and hung up the call directly. He knew that Ezekiel would be carrying out the plans on the Cliff of Death. The three forces were planning to kill Caspian tonight. The Legion, which appeared all of a sudden and rushed toward the Cliff of Death, was obviously going to rescue Caspian. Zachary had always had a vague feeling that Caspian's identity was not as straightforward. Now, he was more certain of this thought. Caspian was definitely not an ordinary soldier. How could someone capable of mobilizing an entire army be ordinary? As a regional chief, his analytic skills definitely weren't lacking. Now, it was likely that something had happened to the Yorks. As the mastermind behind the scenes, he couldn't escape from the blame. This time, it seemed there would be no turning point. Zachary didn't intend to sit idly by. He wanted to leave the Two Lakes area. However, it was already midnight. There was nowhere he could go, even if he fled now. After careful consideration, Zachary decided to go to the embassy of Tigra to seek help. He had always had close ties with Tigra. In the current urgent situation, the most sensible choice was to find a strong backer. As long as he entered the embassy of Tigra, no one would dare to touch him. Hence, Zachary packed up some important items and drove to the embassy of Tigra alone. At 3:00 a.m., Caspian received a call. He rubbed his eyes. It was John who called. Lord Caspian, this is John, John said from the other end of the call. What's the matter? Caspian asked. The team I sent to Zachary's residence reported that Zachary escaped overnight, said John. Escape, to? Caspian asked. Chapter 116 Hand over the traitor. The embassy of Tigra. John informed Caspian of the latest news. The situation had escalated beyond their plan. The embassy of Tigra. Caspian was somewhat surprised. He hadn't anticipated Zachary betraying the nation. Yes. What actions should we take now? Please give your orders, Lord Caspian, John asked. This was a matter concerning two nations, hence he didn't dare to make decisions alone. As the regional chief in the Two Lakes area, Zachary has betrayed the nation. Issue immediate orders for people to go to the embassy of Tigra and demand that Zachary be handed over. Lord Caspian, sending an army to the embassy of Tigra might provoke objections from the people of Tigra. It might even lead to war. John expressed his worries. Don't be afraid. Diatoran has an abundance of talents. If they refuse to hand over Zachary, we'll start a war, Caspian asserted determinedly. Yes, Lord Caspian. John replied firmly. At the embassy of Tigra, Chris Olson was reviewing documents when Zachary, the regional chief of Diatoran, came to see him. So, he decided to meet him. I have many classified Diatoran documents, including some crucial information. If you can ensure my safety and help me escape safely, I'll provide you with the secrets on Diatoran, said Zachary. Sure. Seeing as you're so sincere, I'll ensure your safety. But could you show me the classified documents first? Asked Chris. Not now. I can only give them to you once I leave Diatoran safely. Zachary wasn't an idiot. He knew that these classified documents were his lifeline. If he disclosed these secrets now, he would be left with nothing to protect him. All right. I'll arrange for you to leave Diatoran tomorrow. Chris was clear about Zachary's current state, so he knew that Zachary wouldn't lie. Hence, it was a worthwhile deal for him. Just then, panicked voices echoed from outside. "Ambassador, something bad happened?" A guard shouted in a panicked tone. "What's happening? What's with all this panic?" Chris exclaimed irritably. "A military unit has arrived outside, and they've surrounded the entire embassy," the guard answered, still panicking. "What?" Chris was alarmed by the news. When Zachary heard the news, he began to panic as well. He hadn't anticipated that the Diatoran army would come so soon. Chris and Zachary went to take a peek by the window, and saw that the area had been surrounded by armored vehicles. "Hand over Zachary York. Hand over the traitor. Hand over Zachary York," the soldiers shouted loudly outside the embassy. Seeing this, Zachary trembled in fear. He said to Chris beside him, "Safety. I have a lot of secrets on Diatoran that you want." "I know. Since I've already promised you, I'll keep my word. They won't dare to break in recklessly," Chris stated calmly. "If they dare to surround the embassy, they must have made thorough preparations." Zachary exclaimed, "So what? Do they dare to declare war with my mighty nation, Tigra? If they dare to come in here, they'll be provoking the dignity of Tigra. This will definitely cause a dispute between the two nations." Chris spoke arrogantly. "I hope that's indeed the case," Zachary said. At this moment, the leader of the troop, Derek Myers, shouted, "The traitor of my country, Zachary York, has entered the embassy of Tigra. Please hand him over immediately." "I don't know any Zachary York," Chris replied. "We've received information that the traitor is inside your embassy. We hope that you can hand him over and not ruin the relationship between our two countries over this," said Derek. "Why are you yelling? Zachary is right beside me, but I won't hand him over. What are you going to do about it?" Chris shouted with irritation. "I don't have time to argue with you. If you don't hand over the traitor, I'll lead my men in. Do you have the guts? This is the embassy of Tigra. If you break in, you'll be declaring war against our nation," Chris said disdainfully. Damn it. Derek hadn't expected Chris to be so difficult to deal with. He didn't dare to act recklessly, and instead reported the situation to John. When John knew about this, he went to report to Caspian. "What's the situation?" Caspian was about to sleep but saw the phone call and answered it. "Lord Caspian, the situation is a bit tense. Chris refuses to hand over Zachary," John reported. "Do they want to protect Zachary?" Caspian asked him. "We received information that Zachary has classified information on Diatoran. He has indeed betrayed the nation," John stated. "That jerk. We can't let him hand over the classified information," said Caspian. Zachary's betrayal had made him the enemy of the entire country. "But the situation is tense right now. Our men are afraid to barge in," said John. "Send out my order. Give them 10 minutes. If they still refuse to hand over the traitor, the soldiers can charge in. Anyone who doesn't cooperate shall face immediate consequences," Caspian stated firmly. "Lord Caspian, this is a critical issue. Shouldn't we seek Balthazar's opinion?" John asked. "There's no need for that. I have the power to make the decision first, before reporting to him. Zachary's betrayal is evident. I want him to be immediately captured. I'll take responsibility for any problems that arise," Caspian assured him. "Yes, Lord Caspian. Being brave enough to act at critical moments without hesitation was the hallmark of a great leader." Outside the embassy of Tigra, Derek had received orders from John and became more confident. "You have 10 minutes to consider. If you still don't surrender him to us, we will make our move. I would like to see if you have the guts." Chris remained defiant. "Your 10 minutes start now." Derek didn't want to waste his time and began the countdown. Chris didn't take him seriously at all, as he didn't believe that they were brave enough to charge in. Time passed, yet there was no action taken by Chris. "All guards, pay attention to me. If they dare to charge in and attack, they're declaring war with Tigra. Deal with them ruthlessly." Chris gave an order. "Yes, sir." Tigra's guards stood readily. However, they had no confidence in winning. After all, there was an entire troop outside. Their forces were limited, and they might not even withstand the attack. When Zachary saw the situation outside, he trembled with fear. At this point, he could only hope that Chris could keep him safe. 6, 5, 4. Derek began counting down. The soldiers were prepared and ready. Seeing this, Chris took a few steps back as he had no confidence as well. 3, 2, 1. Derek gave the order. Men, charge inside and capture Zachary alive. Show no mercy to anyone who dares to stop in your way. The fully armed soldiers began to surge forward like a tide. The imminent battle was about to begin. Chapter 117, Capturing the Traitor. When the guards of Tigris saw the scene, they were terrified and ran for their lives. Some guards were slow to react, and were immediately knocked to the ground. Chris kept retreating. But at the moment, Derek and his troop had already charged forward. Trembling in fear, he muttered nervously, "What do you want? By doing this, you're declaring war." A muffled sound echoed as Derek first struck Chris's chin. The more Derek looked at him, the more he was annoyed. The screaming Chris was thrown backward. He spat out blood, and several of his teeth broke from the punch. When Zachary saw Derek charging at him, he felt a sense of despair. In a state of panic, he wanted to find a place to hide, but it was too late. Capture Zachary, the traitor. Derek ordered his soldiers. Instantly, the soldiers surged forward and pinned Zachary to the ground. Realizing he was in serious trouble, Zachary looked as if he had accepted his fate. He hadn't expected the soldiers to be so brave that they dared to storm into the embassy of Tigris. Derek took Zachary and all the classified documents away. Meanwhile, Chris and his guards kept quiet as they watched Derek take Zachary away. Eventually, Derek left with Zachary, leaving Chris in a daze. He slowly stood up after seeing that Derek and the rest had gone. "Ambassador, they've gone too far. How dare they charge inside our territory and injure our men? This outrage can't be tolerated," a guard said. "Of course, I'm aware of it. I'll report to the king right away. These arrogant people need to be taught a lesson," Chris said agitatedly. Caspian woke up early. Today, he was going to hold a memorial service for Lilith. Soon after, Willow, Miranda, Zoe, and Joey also began to wake up. While Willow was drinking milk, she turned on the TV, wanting to see if the incident at the cliff had been reported. However, as soon as the TV was switched on, the footage playing was from the night Lilith saved Priscilla. Miranda, Zoe, and Joey were all stunned when they saw this. Especially Joey, who was even more shocked. She couldn't figure out where the footage came from. She had been searching for this evidence for a long time, but couldn't find it. Why is this footage being broadcasted on TV? Joey was puzzled. "I arranged for it," Caspian answered. "How did you get the footage from that night?" Joey was extremely surprised. "Sylvia found it," he answered. "All the evidence was destroyed by Ezekiel. How did Sylvia manage to get it?" Astounded, Joey continued to question. "She can get any information she wants," Caspian added. Finally, Joey stopped asking any more questions. Sylvia's ability to command an entire troop proved her capability. With talents abound in the military, obtaining surveillance footage was a piece of cake. Then, everyone watched the screen in silence. Lilith fought valiantly with no signs of backing down but was brutally killed by those thugs at the end. Willow was deeply moved when she saw the footage as she was also at the scene that night. At this moment, she couldn't suppress the grief in her heart and burst into tears. "Caspian, I never expected Madame Ziegler to die in such a brave and heroic way. She's a real hero," Joey said tearfully. Caspian felt his heart break into two when he saw the footage. The members of the Flying Dragons and Derek are nothing but beasts. Madame Ziegler was already seriously injured, but they still didn't show any mercy. "They're truly inhumane," Miranda exclaimed. "Exactly. It doesn't feel bad at all to tear those bastards apart," Zoe added. "If it weren't for Madame Ziegler, that girl would have faced a bad fate." But Ezekiel, as the head of the Inspector General's office, erased all evidence and tried to frame Madame Ziegler. Joey vented her frustration. Then, she turned to Caspian and asked, "Caspian, what are your plans now that the members of the York family and the Flying Dragons are all captured?" "You'll naturally understand when the memorial begins," Caspian replied. "Why not hand them over to the Inspection Bureau? They'll definitely be punished." Joey suggested. "No need. I don't trust the inspection bureau, Caspian said expressionlessly. At this moment, the Stewart family members were having breakfast as well. Carl, are you really going to Caspian's foster mother's memorial? Asked Marilyn. Yes. Lilith was my family. It's only right for me to attend her memorial service, Carl answered. Why bother going to such a thing? It's best if you don't go, said Marilyn. I've already promised Caspian. How can I back out now? He stated. Caspian is a wastrel. Besides, what's the point of keeping your promises to him? She insisted. Mom, I've made up my mind. Please stop, he said. Fine. Marilyn sighed. Seeing him so determined, she decided not to push further. Kate, come with me, Carl said to Kate. First, she hesitated. She was the reason why Lilith was kicked out of the villa, which ultimately led to her death. Kate couldn't face this fact. In truth, Kate felt extremely guilty and wanted to make amends, but right now, she was unsure of what to do. Okay, I'll go with you. She finally agreed. The entire South Lake City was incredibly gloomy, with a light drizzle early in the morning. At this time, the large screens in various media outlets and malls across the city were playing footage of Lilith's heroic rescue. Citizens stopped to watch the footage. Each of them was touched by her bravery and expressed condemnation toward Derek and the Flying Dragons. In an instant, everyone in the city knew about Lilith's deed, and that Caspian was holding a memorial service for her. Many wanted to pay their respects to Lilith, the brave hero who feared no one. Carmen had been on duty all night. She was worried about Caspian and the others' safety. After finishing her work, she was on her way home when she saw the footage of Lilith and the Flying Dragons fight. She couldn't help but cry. Knowing that Caspian was holding a memorial service for Lilith, she decided to pay her respects as well. However, no one knew what happened on the cliff last night. The entire city had no idea that the Flying Dragons were gone. They were even oblivious to the fact that the head of the Flying Dragons, as well as Ezekiel and the regional chief in the Two Lakes area, had all been captured by Caspian's men. Chapter 118, a solemn memorial service. Priscilla and her family had been following the events closely. When they knew that Caspian was going to hold a memorial service for Lilith, they rushed over to pay their respects to her. After all, Lilith sacrificed herself to save her. Hence, she had to attend no matter what. At this moment, Lilith's heroic act had spread out throughout the entire South Lake City. Countless citizens were moved by her actions and spontaneously made their way to South Lake Cemetery. Instantly, white flowers across the city were sold out. Sylvia arrived outside of Riverside Villa with a group of people. She and a few elite members were the first to enter the villa. Caspian, how's the preparation? Sylvie asked straightforwardly after entering. It's all done. Let's go, Caspian answered. I brought 2 sets of funeral attire. You guys should change into them, she said as she handed them to Caspian. Caspian and Willow were supposed to wear them. Willow, let's change. Caspian took the clothes and said to Willow. Okay. Willow nodded. After changing their clothes, the 2 of them walked out. Sylvia gave a white flower each to Joey, Miranda, and Zoe. Let's go, Caspian said, dressed in a black suit. With that, they left Riverside Villa. On the way, Caspian and Willow saw countless vehicles heading toward South Lake Cemetery. Some were holding white flowers and walking to the cemetery as well. What's happening today? Why are there so many people heading to South Lake Cemetery? Caspian was puzzled. Caspian, the entire city is moved by Madame Ziegler's heroic deeds. They're here to mourn her as well, answered Sylvia. Remember to take necessary safety precautions and ensure the orderly conduct of the memorial service, Caspian said. Don't worry. I've made all the arrangements, Sylvia answered. Hearing this, Caspian nodded without saying much. When Caspian and the rest reached South Lake Cemetery, they saw that the place was surrounded by hordes of citizens. However, they were stopped by the soldiers from entering. A security cordon had been set up outside the cemetery, with guards stationed every 6 feet. Sylvia led Caspian and the others to enter the cemetery. Upon getting out of the car, they walked toward Lilith's grave. There were numerous soldiers guarding her grave. On Lilith's grave was a quote that read, "Valiant for justice, may your heroic spirit endure." In remembrance from afar, amidst the bitter cold wind and rain, Willow and Joey were surprised to see this formal memorial service, which was arranged for Caspian. There were more than 1,000 soldiers here under Sylvia's command, who were responsible for security. More reinforcements were on their way too. Each soldier was in white, their faces solemn and dignified. Caspian and Willow began to pay their respects. Afterward, Caspian said to Sylvia, "Since the citizens are so enthusiastic, let them enter in an orderly manner." The purpose of the memorial was to let everyone know that Lilith sacrificed herself out of righteousness. With so many citizens coming to mourn, it was only right to let them in. "Okay," nodded Sylvia. At this moment, Carl arrived outside of South Lake Cemetery with Kate. As they got out of the car, they realized the cemetery was completely surrounded by people. They couldn't believe so many people had come for Lilith's memorial service. They quickly made their way to Lilith's grave, paid their respects, and stood at the side. "Please mourn in an orderly manner, and keep quiet," Sylvia announced. Since the citizens came on their own to pay their respects, of course, they followed the rules. They brought flowers and candles. Caspian and Willow thanked everyone who came to mourn. When Priscilla arrived, she wept in front of Lilith's grave. Willow helped her up and comforted her. Soon, amidst a drizzle, Julian arrived with his mighty troop. Every member of the troop was dressed in black and had white flowers on their chest as they looked solemn. Such a huge procession left the citizens dumbfounded. Priscilla, Carl, and the rest were equally astonished. No one had thought an entire troop would come and mourn for Lilith. Even Willow and Joey hadn't anticipated that they would come to the memorial service after saving Caspian. Julian led the way, followed by the soldiers carrying wreaths. The guards stood together and started reciting, "Amidst verdant hills and serene waters, the undying spirit thrives. Majestic pines and emerald cypresses offer solace to departed souls. Loyal souls and fervent blood transform into spring's gentle rain. Resolute aspirations that move even the divine and the ethereal." The quote was written by Julian. The troop of nearly 10,000 soldiers brought an eerie silence to the scene with their magnificent presence. The citizens took a few steps back to make space, or else the massive troops wouldn't have space to enter. When Julian arrived at Lilith's grave, the troop halted. "Salute." With firm resolve in his gaze, Julian commanded, and everyone performed a military salute. Seeing this, Kate couldn't help but tremble all over. At this moment, another important figure appeared. The military officer of South Borders, John Anderson, had appeared. No one had expected him to show up. His appearance at Caspian's wedding was surprising. However, his visit this time wasn't merely for condolences. He was also responsible for bringing Zachary to Caspian. Upon hearing of his appearance, the influential figures of South Lake City came to mourn as well. No matter what their motives were, Caspian and Willow expressed their gratitude for their presence. At this moment, a commotion had broken out at Stewart residence. "Grandma, it's bad. Something big happened," Henry shouted. "Why are you panicking? What happened?" Marilyn asked. "I heard that a lot of influential figures of South Lake City went to Caspian's foster mother's memorial service today," said Henry. "How is that possible?" Marilyn was in disbelief. "It's true. Even the military officer of South Borders, John Anderson, is there." "What?" John appeared again. Marilyn was shocked. She found it shocking that John had shown up to support Caspian twice. Yes. Besides John, a grand troop also showed up. Most of the citizens of South Lake City went to mourn too. That memorial service is of an unimaginable scale, Henry hurriedly reported. Chapter 119 Execution. Go notify your parents quickly. We're going to see those influential figures, Marilyn exclaimed with excitement. "Grandma, Caspian invited us before, but we directly rejected him. Isn't it inappropriate to go now?" Henry questioned. "Don't worry. Caspian is the son-in-law of our family. It's only natural for us to go. This is a good opportunity for the Stewart family to get closer to high society. Go and get ready. We'll leave right away," Marilyn declared. "All right, Grandma. I'll arrange it now," Henry replied. Afterward, He called his parents. South Lake Cemetery was still buzzing with people. Clear out those who are unrelated. Order the guards to secure the perimeter and keep others away, Caspian commanded. All right. Sylvia knew that Caspian was about to take action, so she directed the unrelated individuals to leave. Be courteous to them. After all, they're here to mourn my foster mother, he added. I understand. Sylvia immediately instructed her subordinates to be mindful of their attitude. It took nearly 40 to 50 minutes to clear the area as there were too many people. Priscilla and the rest were also escorted out. Then, the guards stationed themselves by the cordon to prevent others from approaching. Bring those damn people up here, Caspian said coldly. Bring them in. Sylvia gestured with a wave of her hand. Nadia, Samuel, Dawn, Derek, Ezekiel, Garrett, and Skylar were all detained together in a van. Meanwhile, Zachary was detained alone in a separate vehicle. However, the citizens had no idea who the people inside those vehicles were. Soon after, under the guards' protection, the two vehicles slowly entered South Lake Cemetery. A troop of soldiers came to escort the detainees out. Nadia, Ezekiel, Garrett, Zachary, and the rest were brought out. They trembled in fear when Lilith's grave was right in front of him. Lilith's memorial portrait sent a chill down his spine. When the detainees were escorted out, they sensed that the situation was dire. Zachary, what's going on? Why are you here? Nadia couldn't believe her eyes when she saw that her son, the regional chief in the Two Lakes area, was also brought in. She had hoped that he could save their family, but their last hope was gone now. It's all because of you. Why did you murder Caspian's foster mother? Why did you insist on opposing Caspian? Now, our whole family is in trouble, Zachary said, somewhat irritated. He had been doing perfectly fine in his position as the regional chief in the Two Lakes area, but the York family's action had ruined everything for him. If they hadn't insisted on opposing Caspian, he wouldn't have intervened, and none of this would have happened. It's all because of Derek. He's the one responsible for Lilith's death, said Nadia. It wasn't until this moment that she realized her grandson had committed an unforgivable crime. Grandma, how could I have known that murdering a woman would lead to so much trouble? Derek replied. Shut up. It's too late now, Caspian said coldly. Caspian, what do you intend to do with us? Samuel asked, trembling. Caspian didn't bother to answer his question. Wait outside, all of you, Caspian said to Willow and the rest. He was going to deal with this group of people, so he didn't want too many people witnessing such scenes as it would be extremely brutal. Caspian, do you plan to take matters into your own hands? Joey asked with surprise. I only plan to let them receive the punishment they deserve. General Anderson of South Aridlands is here. He can be the witness, said Caspian. Then why are you driving us away? Asked Joey. You've witnessed your fair share of gruesome scenes. Do you want to add to the list? Answered Caspian. All right, we'll leave now. Joey had indeed seen enough bloody scenes and didn't wish to stay any longer. As for Willow and Zoe, they didn't dare to witness such cruel scenes, so they left with Joey. When Kate saw that all those people who were involved in Lilith's death had been apprehended, she trembled in fear. She wanted to leave immediately. She grabbed Carl and followed the other citizens to leave the cemetery. Once Willow and the rest had left the cemetery, Caspian said with a sharp and menacing demeanor, It's time for you to pay the price of your actions. Caspian, what exactly is your true identity? Ezekiel knew that his time was up, but he wasn't willing to accept it. He wanted to know Caspian's background, and why he could mobilize so many connections. Since all of you are dying soon, I'll let you die with clarity. John, tell them my background and true identity, Caspian said to John beside him. This matter had to be announced by John for credibility as he was a general. Caspian's true identity is the Diaturanian god of war. Since you murdered his foster mother, all that awaits you is death. No one can save you, John declared. Hearing this, the faces of Ezekiel and the others turned pale. They could never have imagined that Caspian, known for being a loser, was the Diaturanian god of war. Even Zachary hadn't expected this. No wonder John showed the utmost respect for him. Even Balthazar would show some respect to him. If it weren't for John being the one who disclosed Caspian's identity, they wouldn't have believed it at all. However, as a general, how could John's words be false? At this moment, Marilyn, Donald, Henry, and the others were rushing towards South Lake Cemetery. Along the way, they saw pedestrians coming and going. Quickly, otherwise, the memorial service will be over. Marilyn urged anxiously. Mom, there are too many cars here. The traffic is bad, and we can't move any faster. Donald was helpless as he drove the car. Why did we reject Caspian's invitation earlier? Marilyn regretfully expressed. After finally squeezing their way to the entrance of the cemetery, Marilyn and the rest hurriedly got out of the car. But they found that only a group of guards were left. We're here to mourn Lilith. Let us in. Marilyn addressed the guards at the gate. Sorry, the cemetery is completely closed now. No one is allowed to go in, the guard replied. I'm Caspian's grandmother. Go inform him. The old lady hesitated for a moment, then hastily revealed her identity. I see. Please wait a moment. With that, the guard rushed inside to report. Grandma, Uncle, why are you here? Willow, who was waiting outside, asked with confusion. We came to pay our respects to Lilith. Willow, shouldn't you be inside? Why are you waiting outside? Marilyn was surprised to see Willow outside. Caspian asked me to wait outside. He's handling something inside. Grandma, why did you just arrive? Everyone finished paying respects a while ago. Willow curiously inquired. Chapter 120, The Execution Begins. Upon hearing Willow's words, Marilyn and the others felt a bit awkward. I heard that John also showed up, along with a whole troop. Have they left? Marilyn avoided Willow's question and asked further. They're all inside, answered Willow. In that case, let's go in, Marilyn said happily. She believed that with her identity, she could surely enter the cemetery. Just as Caspian was preparing to begin the execution, a guard rushed in, reporting to Lord Caspian. There's an elderly lady outside claiming to be your grandmother. She wishes to attend the memorial service. Shall we let her group in? Send them back, answered Caspian. Caspian instantly understood that Marilyn's intention wasn't to pay respects to Lilith. She wanted to meet these influential figures, hoping one of them could help the Stewart family rise to prominence. He had invited them before, and they rejected him. Now that they wished to come, he had no intention of letting them in. Yes, Lord Caspian. Tell them that General Anderson has ordered that the memorial service has ended. All unrelated individuals are not permitted inside. Caspian ordered. He didn't want to reveal his identity or let the Stewart family know about his background. John was stunned when he heard this and found himself in an unexpected position. Yes, Lord Caspian. The guard turned and hurried back. Can we enter now? Marilyn asked the guard. No. General Anderson gave the order that the memorial service has ended and unrelated people aren't allowed in. What? It ended so quickly. Marilyn was shocked to hear this. Yes. The guard nodded. If it has ended, why haven't they come out yet? Marilyn persisted, refusing to let it go. I cannot disclose that. Please return. I want to see Caspian. Ask him to come out and greet us. She continued to insist. She was unwilling to leave without meeting the influential figures, especially after traveling all the way here. It's a direct order from General Anderson. Please return, the guard said, firm in his refusal. Mom, let's leave. The general has given his orders. There's no use in looking for Caspian, said Donald. When Marilyn heard this, she found Donald's words reasonable and nodded in agreement. With that, they left in dismay and did not want to stay for another second. At this moment, Caspian was addressing the group of perpetrators at Lilith's grave. Quentin, you killed my mother. Do you have any last words? Caspian stared intently at Quentin, preparing to punish him first. Please have mercy. I only acted upon Derek's order. Please, give me a chance. Even though Quentin was notorious for his evil deeds, he felt an immense fear in the face of death. My mother was barely alive at the time, yet you continued to stab her. If not for those stabs, she might have had a chance to survive. And now you expect me to spare you. Did you ever think of sparing her? Caspian said coldly. I'm truly sorry. Even if you kill me now, It won't change a thing. She won't come back alive. Please let me go, Quentin pleaded desperately. An eye for an eye. Take him to my mother's grave and execute him by firing squad. Caspian waved his hands. He wasn't interested in further conversation with Quentin. Upon hearing Caspian's order, Quentin collapsed helplessly to the ground. 2 guards dragged him to Lilith's grave, followed closely by another guard holding a rifle. Don't kill me! Don't kill me! Please, I beg you! Quentin shouted desperately. A gunshot rang out, and Quentin fell to the ground. Upon witnessing this scene, the others kneeling on the ground were terrified. Their faces were pale, and they were scared that they might be next. Derek trembled in fear as he was the mastermind behind this incident. Ezekiel and others held on to a glimmer of hope in their hearts. They felt Lilith's death wasn't related to them, so Caspian might not hurt them. At most, he would just teach them a lesson. Skylar, you're next, Caspian said again. I didn't do anything. Why do you want to kill me? I have nothing to do with Lilith's death. Skylar was stunned for a moment and immediately explained. Indeed, you have nothing to do with my mother's death. But as the head of the Flying Dragons, you've done all sorts of evil deeds and even dared to kidnap my wife. So, you must die too, Caspian stated coldly. I did it under someone else's command. I didn't intend on kidnapping her. Please, spare my life, Skylar cried out. Drag him over and execute him. Caspian gave his order. Skylar met the same fate as Quentin. Now, the remaining people were even more terrified. The feeling of awaiting death was excruciating. Victor, do you have anything to say? Caspian stared at Victor. Victor trembled all over as he stuttered. I only gave advice to the Flying Dragons. I didn't do anything. You're a shit strategist. Many people's lives have been lost as a result of your ideas. You must have come up with the idea for the Cliff of Death incident. Drag him over and execute him. Caspian commanded. No, no, Victor shouted desperately. A gunshot echoed, marking Victor's death. Bring Ezekiel and Garrett up here. Caspian wanted to speed up the process, and since both of these bastards were working together, they might as well be dealt with together. Ezekiel and Garrett were brought in front of Caspian. Ezekiel, do you admit your guilt? Caspian questioned. Diaturanian god of war, I'm aware of my mistake now. I didn't know you were the god of war. If I had known your identity, I wouldn't have dared to act against you. Ezekiel trembled as he spoke. Shut up. As the head of the Inspector General's office, you colluded with the Flying Dragons. You deserve to die. Caspian bellowed. No, no. The incident last night was a misunderstanding. I only wanted to scare you. Ezekiel lied. Is that so? I warned you yesterday. Today, you're undoubtedly going to die. Ezekiel was terrified and begged. Diaturanian god of war, I know I was wrong. Please spare my life. It's too late. I gave you a chance before, Caspian said. Ezekiel's face was ashen. The reason Caspian had his troop capture Ezekiel, Garrett, and the rest alive was to torment them and let them feel such fear. Killing them directly would be too easy for them. Garrett, it's your turn. Caspian's gaze fell upon Garrett. Diaturanian god of war. I have no connection to the Cliff of Death's incident yesterday. It was all Ezekiel's idea. I just gathered some manpower. Garrett stated in extreme fear. If it wasn't for Joey's timely arrival yesterday, Miranda's chastity might have been lost. The Flying Dragons have committed all sorts of evil, and now, it's time for all of you to pay, said Caspian. Please, give me a chance. I don't want to die yet. Garrett was terrified. He knelt on the ground and begged. It's not up to you to decide, Caspian stated coldly.